I was going through a really tough time. They asked me, who are you being that's getting in the way of what you want? I didn't have words for those. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm an engineer. I'm very process driven and logical. I didn't know how I felt about things like that. But I stuck with it because I really was looking for some answers. And I was able to define who I was being that was getting in the way of that moment. And then there's a complementary question that's who are you becoming as a leader in this next version of yourself, the next version of your leadership, or next version of your company, the next level, whatever. Who are you becoming? So those two questions really work well together. If you know who you're being that gets in the way of what you want, then you can write it down very succinctly. That's a very powerful tip in this. It's not just a word vomit of all the things, because it's really hard for you to know if you're in alignment unless it's really succinct and concise.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today I want to talk about leading with intention. A lot of people get this confused because they think that there's an interpretation about being intentional is I intend to do something, but then you may never get around to doing it. I think there's a different definition I want to invite you to look at. How do you intend to do the work that you are about to do? When I look at it through that lens, it gives me a little bit more of how powerful this can be. Because if you don't intend, if you don't have a clear description, you show up by default. And you may be moving into a conversation that you need to have with someone and be frustrated. And that's going to go differently than if you go into it from a calm place, or maybe a compassionate place, or empathetic. And so when I start to unpack this today, hopefully it'll be more clear what I'm talking about leading with intention. My name is Gene Hammett. I am a CEO coach. We do executive coaching and leadership development. Our company's name is Core Elevation. This is just a little bit of a conversation with you because I had a really just a cool moment with a client this week, and I wanted to share it with you, but I want to frame it so that you can use it to be a better leader. So this leading with intention is something that I found to be a very powerful force inside of my work with clients. None of my clients really need to be held accountable to the work that they say they're going to do sometimes, but most of the time they're very driven, hungry for it, and they just need a little bit of insight or a reframe or a direction, or maybe they just need to have a conversation. But over the last 15 years, I've been doing this coaching thing. I have developed tools and frameworks, and some of them are from my coach training. Some of them are just things that I've developed. Some of them things I borrow from other people, and I'm always going to give credit where I can. If I don't give credit for something, it's only because I don't know who I learned it from or whatnot, and it may be just so universal that I feel like it doesn't need credit. But if I can put a name to it, I will. This, what I'm about to tell you, comes from my coach training. I went to Newfield Networks, got certified. No one ever asked if I'm a certified coach or not, but I did that about 15 years ago. And I was going through a really tough time. They asked me, who are you being that's getting in the way of what you want? I didn't have words for those. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm an engineer. I'm very process driven and logical. I didn't know how I felt about things like that. But I stuck with it because I really was looking for some answers. And I was able to define who I was being that was getting in the way of that moment. And then there's a complementary question that's who are you becoming as a leader in this next version of yourself, the next version of your leadership, or next version of your company, or next level, whatever. Who are you becoming? So those two questions really work well together. If you know who you're being that gets in the way of what you want, then you can write it down very succinctly. That's a very powerful tip in this. It's not just a word vomit of all the things, because it's really hard for you to know if you're in alignment unless it's really succinct and concise. But when you think about who you're being, and then you also think about who you're becoming, you write that down. And it must be concise as well, because when you can glance at it, it can really zero you back into whatever it is you want to do. And I use this all the time. It's in our book, How to Have Tough Conversations. Who do you need to be to deliver this conversation? And that's on the forward-facing version of this, the intentional version. So the story that I was hoping to share with you was from one of my executive clients. So I work with CEOs, but I also work with executives too. And I was working with this young VP. And she really was very talented. She's very driven, and she wanted to be a better leader. And so I asked her a few questions. Who are you being that's getting in the way of who you want to be right now? I won't share with you that. I'm not going to share you the name of the client. I'm not going to share you the name of the executive because I didn't get their permission. Actually, I did get their permission, but I just don't want to share this with you, just out of keeping things confidential. But the real power of leading with intention is this: who are you becoming? I have asked this hundreds and hundreds of times in my coaching career, and I want to unpack it for you just a little bit. When you are able to define who you're becoming, it is a clear list of your personal traits that you know that if you show up that way, you'll be proud of yourself. When you meet some kind of resistance or challenge, which it's coming, it's not a matter of if, it's when, but you will show up the way you want to. And that's really what leading with intention is all about. In this case, we'll fast forward to the moment that we had this week. I was in an executive team call with that client, and she wasn't on the call, but all the other executives, the C suites, said, "Oh, yeah, we had a little bit of an issue this week. I sent an email to my team saying, I saw this data. There's some outliers. What do you see?" Didn't tell them what the data was, didn't tell them what to do, did not give them, the 3-step plan or 7-step plan. He empowered them to figure it out for themselves. Now that's a teaching moment in itself. Do you do that? Do you use that play to empower your people? Hey, I'm seeing something on this slide or on this page or this email or this data. Those are all examples. They're not one thing, but letting them figure it out. So in this scenario and story I want to share with you, he sends the email over to 3 VPs because they have a big sales team. And one of them had looked at the data, analyzed the situation, figured out what the CEO was talking about, didn't even ask him questions. This is the part that was so beautiful. But she was able to assess what was going on. She was able to look into the employee file, knows that that person was already had a warning letter and had a very documented situation and had some challenging conversations over the last few months. And they've given her many, many chances. And the data still proved that her behavior was not in alignment with the performance standards that they wanted. I won't go into the details, but I think we can agree that she wasn't getting the job done the right way. And so that VP responded back and said, I looked at the data, I looked into the depth of it, and we have already put this person on warning. And so we've decided to terminate them by the end of the day. Let us know if you think otherwise. Now, I'm filling in some of the gaps inside this, but when I actually get on the call with the VP, she was not even aware that she was doing anything special. But as I let you in this story, I know that she was showing up intentionally because in the executive team call, I held up this 4x6 card. And for those of you who are not watching the video, it says decisive, focused, and confident. Very succinct. This was exactly how that VP wanted to show up. And when I share this with you, the CEO, I said, which of the 3 did she demonstrate with this story? And he smiled and said, all 3 of them. He goes, did you help her? And the answer is no, I did not help her. I didn't help her in the moment, but I helped her ahead of time decide how she wants to show up. Who is she becoming as a leader? And she's already these things, but she wanted to be more decisive. She wanted to be more focused and more confident. And so I share this example to you because she had in her mind that that's what she needed to do to be the leader she wanted to be. So she was faced with one little moment throughout the day. And we're faced all with many moments throughout the day. And she stayed in alignment with those 3 intentions. And she delivered on that by confidently and decisively deciding what to do next. She got focused and she did it. You probably don't need me to paint the picture for you, but this tool is something you can use. You can ask yourself, who am I being that's getting in the way of losing weight? Or who am I being that's getting in the way of having the relationships I want? Or who am I being as a leader when I'm not communicating the way I want to? There's so many versions of this question, but the companion question that goes with it is, who are you becoming? And when you can say that very succinctly, you can write it down on a 4x6 card, for example, or a whiteboard. I have mine written here next to me. Go deeper, focus, and trust yourself. Those are just a part of me now. If I fast forward, when you do this often enough and you stay in alignment with what you've written down, what you intend for yourself, you will show up that way because that's how you want to be seen. That's how you want to show up for the people around you. Maybe you want to show up that way at home. You want to show up that way for your kids. You want to show up that way for your wife or your husband, or you want to show up that way for your partners, your clients. And in different fields of play, if you will, those may change, although not a lot. Your to-do list changes. To put this in full context, anybody who's old school sales trained, they tell you this all the time: smile before you dial. Let me just go ahead and tell you why they do that. You probably already know, but my interpretation is smile before you dial is being able to intentionally show up the way you want to, even though they may not be able to see you on a phone call. Because when this was created, there was no video conversations like we have today. But when you smile before you dial, you are projecting a sense of excitement and happiness. And that's so different than if you just showed up and just dialed and said hi. But if you smile, if you actually have that smile on your face, you can sense it in others. They can feel that energetically and they can hear it. I know it sounds weird, but it's true. You can hear it when someone else is not feeling, happy about things, or they're not excited or energized. If they're feeling down, you can say, hey, what's going on? But in a sales conversation, smile before you dial is meant to align you with a smiling face to that conversation so that you put your best foot forward. Now, if it works in sales, why shouldn't you use this when you do anything? If you got in the car and you were going to be, you would never say, I'm just going to be distracted. You would go, I'm going to be really focused. I'm not going to, pick up my phone. When you go to do your workout, are you going to be distracted at the workout? Or are you going to be really focused about what the job is to get done there? When you show up for the next conversation, are you going to be distracted, or are you going to be fully present for that conversation? And you can take it deeper. My work as a coach, I have like 7 different tools, and I don't know if I have more than that, but I can count at least 7 different little tools and nuances to help people understand how to come up with who are you becoming, but also how to live it, how to make sure it becomes naturally who you become. I share this with you today because I just want to give everyone an insight into how you can evolve as a leader. I want to pull some of the best things I do for my clients and share them through this podcast. So I appreciate you listening all the way to the end here. If this podcast is something that inspires you to be different, then share it with someone that you know would appreciate this. Or if you're curious about the work we do, and you're curious about how you can just put your toe in the water, see how I could help you or my team can help you. We have a training, not every week, but we do it quite often. If you want to go check it out at training.coreelevation.com, you will see if this resonates with you, we'd love to invite you to come. It's all about how to stop being the bottleneck of your company and continue to grow a company without you. If that resonates for you, go to training.coreelevation.com. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm a CEO coach. I want to help you grow your business, and I want to help you evolve as a leader. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, the courage. We'll see you next time.